We like dancing, woo, dance the night away. Yeah. Sorry, we were practicing our karaoke for, our big karaoke night. What are you talking about? You two never get out of the house. Welcome back. It's time once again for the Comics Coffee Table. Pull up a chair, grab a cuppa, whatever your favorite is, and join us. Leave your problems over there. Pull up a chair, grab a cup of whatever it is you want. And we're going to talk comic books for a couple of minutes, as we do every day, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern daily. Count on us right here. We've been doing it for a while now. Your daily source of escapism and fun. And thank you so very much for tuning in today. I am taking my entire comic book collection. It's more of a funny book accumulation, but it is curated in places. And I need new boxes, new bags, new boards. So I need to get back to my local comic book shop and spend my money there at these brick and mortar stores. I don't need to be using my online supply chain for these supplies. So I'm migrating my collection from these long boxes to the short box. The older I get, the heavier they get. That's just a fact of life. So I'm going to make life easier on myself. I'm also spending money at the comic book shop on bags and boards. Supplies. These are the supplies we need to maintain our comic book collection. And it takes a little effort, a little organization, a little love, a little interest. And you too can, have maybe a stronger, longer comic collection. And so that's one of the missions of this show. I want to get you spending your money at your local comic book shop, because when they're gone, they're gone. They're going the way of the record store and the candy store. Sure, there will always be a boutique, a rare kind of curio shop, retro kind of thing, but the direct market as we know it is changing. The medium of our superhero adventures is changing. It's going to change. The floppy, I fear, could be doomed. So let's preserve the ones we have, and may the odds be ever in your favor? Oh boy. But while we're doing that, we are using these two books to educate ourselves, to have fun, and to get an estimate of what. Aren't you interested in this? Don't you have a collection? Wouldn't you like to know how much your comic books are worth, in a way? I mean, I'm not saying you're going to be getting this, for your issues. Listen, if you have any serious questions about the quality of your floppy or its monetary value, please go to your local comic book shop while you're buying your supplies there. Ask questions. Bring that copy with you. They could even put you in the right direction for any of the major services. There are 3 major services that grade and preserve comics. They are It's Fatos, and there's CBCS. There's the CBCS is the Comic Book Certification Service, and yes, they're out of Dallas, Texas. It appears. There is CGC, the Certified Guarantee Company, and out of Sarasota, Florida. And then there's the Halo certification. Now, I guess each one has their merits. I hear that CGC though is the standard of the standards. So there's that. So we've been using these books, How to Grade Comics, and it shows us with great examples, things to look for, corners, staples, little tears. See if someone tried to fix this. You know what I mean? Just like, hey, that's obviously someone, injured this magazine and try to fix it. I'm learning all this stuff. Maybe you are too. But like I said, I'm not a professional grader. This show is for entertainment purposes only. So with that said, thank you so very much. The coffee table is where my friends would congregate, and we would share stories and share drinks, just like this, bring whatever you want. And there would always be a stack of movies, a stack of music, and a stack of books, especially a stack of comic books. On that table, we would be trying to stick under each other's noses, get each other to read, and that's a vibe that I want to take with me the rest of my life. And with our conversation here, our 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern Daily conversation. Let me wet my whistle. Indeed. We're still attacking my my speed rack, but I found, I think, a good example. So yeah, sure. It must be hard to identify, like, just these near perfect, these near mints. Something that could be in the 7 and the 8s or even the 9s in your own collection with a bag and a board and just a box. Because a professional grader is going to be able to be, oh, no. You see that? You see that corner? You see that ding? You see that ding? Well, let's look at some poorly maintained comic books. Now, I got 2 comic books here from about the same age. From my Bronze Age, late Bronze Age. Remember, the Bronze Age runs between 1970 and 1984. The Copper Age begins in 1984. I got those standards and definitions from the glossary of the Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide. You'll find the Amazon pages in the descriptions if you want your own copies. Seriously. You can play along at home. And yeah, I would love to hear what you got to say about these. But interesting enough, they have the same artistic battery. Once again, I'm using the allegory of the baseball battery. The battery in baseball is the pitcher and the catcher, calling pitches and establishing a tempo for the game as well. And then you go on from there with the rest of the team players, right? Like your manager, your who's your editor, your inker, you know what I mean? Your colorist, who's like your shortstop, your letterer, who's like your right fielder, stuff like that, I love this kind of stuff. I love this comic book shop style conversation. Thank you so much for coming in today. I hope you're clobbering your problems and not being clobbered by them. But I think this is a great example of a poorly maintained comic. So yeah, look at that. Evident, right? Look at that cover. Those dings. Look at those dings. I can see light and holes with the staples. So the staples are kind of like have stress. If that can you see it? No. You can see over here. Just like you tell me if you see little peaks of light, through the back of this comic. But yeah, they have the same artist, the penciler and inker. And that would be John Romita Jr. and his early collaborator Dan Green. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 249. This is now if this is why I stress the importance of let's respect our comic books, let's respect our comic book stores by getting the proper supplies there. But wrong book. It's easy to just, if this had been taken care of. Now this is a 40-year-old magazine, paper publication. So I'm not saying anything just besides that. For us as comic book fans, if we had put this into a Mylar with a acid-free board when we bought it, after we read it and enjoyed it, of course, this individual issue of The Amazing Spider-Man, 249 would be worth $20. That's nice. I basically paid $2.50 for that one. So this is definitely and it's listed here at $2 for a GD 2.0. You can see that. That's what it looks like on the inside of a book. Haha, young people. I'm kidding. Books are your friends. But There are so many dings on this book. I mean, look, we have a folded cover. Look at that corner. I mean, look at that corner. We get some discoloration of the page up top there. Some kind of yellowing. You know, dude, it looks like someone opened their soda pop. And they must have shook, and they must have had it in their back pocket when they were walking home with their funny book, all rolled up like I used to do. Maybe this was mine. But look at it. There's just stains on the top of that book there. So, and just imagine being a comic book shop. Oh, look at that. Imagine being in a comic book shop and having, like, you come across. So this was February 1984. So this would have been on the shelf November, December 1983. I'd be 11 years old. Great time to be, like, buying comic books. This one, like I said, the same battery. The same penciler and inker. John Romita Jr. and Dan Green. Once again, and here we some indicia. So November 1985. So that's, October, September, August. So that's August of 19... I'm 12. And I most definitely had bought this. This is not my original copy. And I probably said that a few times. But here we go. Once again, a great example of what to look for when you're judging a comic book. So say if, like, you're at the local comic book shop and you're diving through the back issues and you find this, but what about that corner crease right there? See, I bought this as well in a different, I've only gotten a few of them, but because there's only so much space I got, but I'm a sucker for them because of the ads, because I had this. I love John Romita. I grew up with John Romita Jr.'s art, man. If I say anything critical about the stuff he's been doing in the past, since Kick-Ass, or it's coming from a place of love and seeing the evolution of his art style. At least we all know that John Romita Jr. continues to push himself and it continues to tweak his style. John Romita Jr. 40 years later is still, and it's not even a bad thing. This is a great thing because he's been intermittent. He's gone to DC and come back already, but he is currently the artist on the latest Amazing Spider-Man. Yes. And his style's in a more polished direction. Colors are more vibrant than ever. And just with digital unlocked a lot for the art and the art form. And this is for me though. I'm going to put these two comics together. Now, Pika looked up if this comic, if we had just cared enough, hypothetically speaking, if we had just cared enough when we bought this in what was that again? In August of 1985, if we had cared enough to put this in a bag with a board, this would be worth, I think, $16. See. Thank you for your show notes, Pika. I really appreciate you. You're the wind between my cheeks. I choose you, Pikachu. All right, X-Men 199. Yeah, if this was near mint, a 9.2 would be worth $12. So a GD, a 2.0, is worth $2, which that's what I paid for. I paid $2.50 for this floppy. Just for this floppy, because it was on the outside of a 4-pack. That was 4 for $10. So these, these readable copies, at least, the comic book shop is selling them for their book value. That's nice to know. I mean, I bought these last year. Been reunited with these old friends. But it was just great to see, the art. I love the Romita art and his evolution. I mean, I really wasn't into that look he had on after he did this thing called Kick-Ass with Mark Millar, 3 volumes of that, and I mean, maybe it's the inker, and it's I hope it's maybe it's the digital techniques or shade. I don't know. But there's just something about it that's just it's not off. It just takes some getting used to. Now, Romita Jr. again returned to Amazing Spider-Man in the late 1990s, early 2000s with J. Michael Straczynski, and once again, I mean, that was for me. I when I came back to comics in 2001, I had all of this Amazing Spider-Man to catch up on. These wonderful melodramatic stories with Peter and MJ, and this is great familiar art, because literally I grew up reading John Romita Jr. and he's had a huge impact on me as a comic books fan. And what's the big deal about inking? What's an inker? Well, an inker basically, if putting it badly and blunt, is traces over the pencils. The penciler does all breakdowns or starts the art up, and the inker will go over the pencils with literal ink, with a brush or an ink pen. Now I'm going to read from you from How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way by Stan Lee and John Buscema. So these are words by Stan the Man Lee, or at least they're credited to him. This you can also find the link to the description. In the description, you'll find a link to this Amazon page where you can get your own copy. This is a fascinating comic book because for me personally, we are on the outside of these comic books looking in. Okay? We are. This gives us the ability to go within the panel and look from the inside out. I love that. I love that. That's a paradigm shift. That's perspective. Perspective. The Art of Inking. I'm reading from, not the wiki. Yeah, I'm reading from a book. No matter how beautifully a page may be drawn in pencil, it cannot be printed in a comic book unless black India ink is applied to the original pencil drawing. That means someone has to trace over the initial penciled artwork with either a paintbrush or drawing pen, transforming each illustration into a carefully inked final product. However, always remember that an inker is not merely a person who traces a penciled drawing. The inker has to be an artist himself or herself. No chauvinists, we. Listen to him then. Huh? Aw. And a gifted inker can make a mediocre penciling look great, while a mediocre inker can make great penciling look dull. Inking is vitally important. The more you know about it, the better. And here's where we begin. And then it goes on to show brush strokes, how to, the gravity and the intenseness of your hand on the page, the amount of ink in on your brush, how to always clean it and to keep your brush in water. Like these little fascinating minutia of the craft. I love seeing this. And let's see. Here's a well-inked page, and then here's one we've overworked. I mean, can you see the difference? I mean, it's in the light, and it's in the and I mean, I swear, like this page brings more attention to the dialogue in a way for me personally. So this is a great book for anyone from noob to veteran. If you don't have this book, please add it to your collection. You are missing out. But so when we're talking about who's inking J.R. Jr., I mean that's it goes from Scott Hanna to to Al Wilkinson to Klaus Johnson. I mean, he's just been there's a lot of good inkers out there, and there's just been also, like I say, Romita he keeps changing his style. He keeps tweaking it. He's like the David Bowie of comic books. It's been a long time since Ziggy Stardust, man. It's been a long time since Genie, man. But in the meantime, he's been through Tin Machine and the Glass Spider, and he's and the Trent Reznor mashups stuff. You know what I mean? In between, and then now he's still making relevant, beautiful comic book art. I love comic books, and I've got a couple of these too. I found these when we're wrapping up the X-Men here. Powers of X and House of 10. These are the Jonathan Hickman, and this was rebooting the X-Men into their current. We call it the Krakoan age, because everything's taking place on the former enemy Krakoa. Mutants now live on Krakoa. They have established a new mutant culture, a new mutant alphabet and language, perhaps even a religion, and they've also conquered death. So they've also with nigh infinite resurrection technology. Yeah, this is part of like what I was saying about Storm and Cyclops, and they lost sight of when Hickman lost control over X-Men. That I think it lost sight of that Cyclops is willing to use unlimited suicide bombers now, or self-deletion bombers, not only to trigger any algorithms, but and Storm would be opposed to that ethically, and I think there was going to be a nice setup between to have a Storm team and maybe another Cyclops doing like a darker theme. And I have a few trade paperbacks. I found these out there too. Now watch out for, things could be too good to be seen sometimes. I have a different copy of this where I have all of them. These are oh my God. Yeah, let's one at a time. One problem at a time. This is like a tankobon or digest version. A digest actually kind of, I think, is a little smaller. But this is New X-Men by Grant Morrison. This is 3 of, I think, 10. And it chronicles his entire 4 or 5 year run on New X-Men. But this digest, I got this as a bundle for like $40, and I thought, oh, cool. No, I would rather have my floppies. I had them once, and they got, way leads to way, divorces, breakups, and the band breaking up too, stuff like that. And you're like, you find yourself years later, it's like, oh, geez, where's my New X-Men? Well, it's with them years ago, far away. And so I replaced that, and with this digest format, it doesn't do the art any justice. I love all the art in here. It introduced me to Ethan Van Sciver and Frank Quitely and Igor Kordy. I don't mind Igor Kordy's art at all. I think it fits Grant Morrison's European feel, because he's, Grant Morrison's Scottish, but the gum backing to these, the pages fall out. And shrinking the art down from a conventional, comics page to this tankobon format doesn't do the art any. The art's so beautiful, you can get lost in it. You could smoke a J, man, and just stare off into these panels, man. How would you know that, Sully? It's legal here, and text. But I got this because it has a reprint of something I grew up with that was on the shelves of my comic books. The oversized original graphic novel number 2, X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills. And this was fucking heavy, man. It was some heavy lifting. This was one of the first mature uses of these beloved comic book characters. Now, I don't want to get really too much into it. We already talked about Marvel Man, Miracle Man a bit. But know that in 1981, 82, that's when Alan Moore got his hands on his formerly cheery hopeful, bright character, and then subverted the expectation by adding neuroses and trauma and real world intersections into this, and kind of just brought this character into the darkness that we know today. That and I think maybe, let me just look this up real quick, because and then they wrote a sequel to it around the release of one of the, I think, X-Men 2, the movie, and with Chris Claremont. Speaking of Igor Cordy, that's some of his best art. X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills. This is 1982, I believe. And once again, I love this Marvel. Where is that Marvel thing? Where are you, Marvel? Thank you so very much for tuning in. Yeah, it was published in 1982. It's original graphic novel number 5. They were a little oversized, and following that like European format. Oops. No, I don't have any European formats. Usually those are in American formats. They're European comics, but they were a little bigger, and and this actually, God Loves, Man Kills, was used as a primary inspiration. I'm reading from the wiki for the 2003 X-Men 2 sequel. Yes, and but this was made in 1982, and so that was around the same time that Miracle Man. Well, thank you, and that Marvel Man, that Alan Moore had his hands on Marvel Man. I think that may have had some kind of lateral impact. We've been talking about comic books, and we're going to talk about comic books every day for the rest of the year. I didn't even get to the John Byrne Dark Phoenix stuff. This stuff's amazing. Get your own copy. You won't regret it. This is what everyone drools for these glory days of the X-Men. Relive it yourself. Find out the power of Tom Orachowski's lettering, Chris Claremont's melodrama, and how he can draw, just give distinct voices to all these individuals. Wonderful stuff. I would totally worth it. I mean, and we've been talking about X-Men comic books. I think this pretty much wraps up my X-Men comics thing until we tackle the Marvel box and see what's in the Marvel long boxes. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. God bless. Namaste. Good luck. We will see you again tomorrow in those funny pages. Ciao. Bye-bye.